We living in the scriptures of Revelation. They gotta separate church and state.
Welcome to Church and State, where we boldly take on the collision of two topics that often brings about energetic and polarizing discussions: politics and religion. You can't talk about it at the dinner table. It can get heated at the barbershop. But we're going to talk about it right here.
I am New York State Assemblywoman Latrice Walker.
And I am Reverend Dr. Robert Waterman.
And together we are Church and State.
Thank you so much for joining us.
As an elected, your mindset is to do a drive-by through the church because they worship too long, or they might be an hour, and I don't have an hour. As a believer, it's different from me to walk that block and keep moving versus go into a church. God comes first and not listen. Maybe God wants to, here it goes. Maybe some of the people who ran, if they stayed there long enough, God would have told them, don't run.
I'm sure God moves faster than the speed of lightning sometimes. Sometimes he takes his time and he easy walk you. But I don't know if it takes, 5 minutes or...
Right. If you stay there long enough, because you talked about experiencing the Holy Spirit and things like that. If you stay there long enough, you experience them. And maybe God would say, no, don't run. Maybe it's not your time. Because you might hear it through the word. You might hear it through the song. But if you never hear the word nor the song, you come at announcement time and then you leave. What actually do you get out of church but a potential vote? And is that the only thing that the black church can give elected officials?
For some elected officials, yes. Yes. Right? And it's when you recognize who people are and you see them. What does Dr. Maya Angelou say to us? When people show you who they are the first time, you believe them.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so if this person has been the type of elected official or candidate who always just drives by your church and you keep opening the doors to the person,
mm-hmm.
then that's going to be their expectation of you at all times. Now, there could be, some things where, you pass by, or, how like that, like some old folk will say, only time just one here come by when the food is hot and ready.
Right.
And so they're just coming by to come eat. And if that's the only thing that you do, then that's one thing. Now, if it's election time, it's GOTV, you're doing your campaign schedule for Sunday or Saturday or Friday worship, then you come back and you establish a regular relationship with the church. I think maybe that might be a little more appropriate. However, but as a candidate, you still have to, there's still a ritual in politics that I think has to be adhered to at the same time. And how do you balance and how do you balance both of those two priorities?
Okay, let's look. I went to a funeral in Harlem. One of the big funerals in Harlem. And I went there and I watched, as I sat, I watched the elected officials. Some came in, they stayed for half an hour, maybe a half an hour, and they left doing this great farewell. Then there was others, like one you support, stayed the whole time, even though some moments felt uncomfortable, yet they stayed there. So I think that there's still a sense of respect, no matter if you're a candidate, that if these moments are special moments for the people that are there, it should be a sense of, okay, I got to do this for the people. I know y'all want me to go from place to place, and you said it yourself, but I can't move now. It's too important that the relationship with God, or God gets the glory, or this is all about a God moment, not a candidate moment, that I'm going to stay the whole time and tell everybody, I just got to miss some things because this is more important in building a relationship with people in God versus me just coming to this moment of worship and just tag people and leave.
Right. That happens. I will never forget one time. This is when I ran in 2014. And I was sitting down with my campaign team, and they were telling me about what this person was doing and what this opponent was doing and what that opponent was doing. And then I went to church, and there was someone who sat next to me, and she says, "Oh, so let me tell you about what this person's campaign is doing and that one." And so it sort of formulates in you the spirit of doubt, self-doubt. And when the pastor preached, his sermon was, the topic of his sermon was run your own race. And so I got that, like you said, just by sitting there and listening to the actual sermon. And then there was another opportunity during that same campaign where they were saying, well, this labor union is this person, and that labor union is with that person, and this one is this. And this particular pastor's sermon was about Elijah.
Mm-hmm.
And what I got out of it, there's more with you than with them. And so you're right. If you sit there, you're gonna grab something. Something is gonna touch you if you avail yourself of that moment and that space.
Mm-hmm.
But it also has a lot to do with your own personal principles,
Mm-hmm.
right? Some people, as you say, don't respect the worship. All they want is the vote and the relationship, and they're going to pass by, whether it's your church, whether it's your event, or however, the thing, whatever the opportunity is. And then there'll be other people who are going to stay all day, right? And I think that you have to be the arbiter of how you're going to handle and deal with that person when they come back to you again for the second opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If there even is a second opportunity.
What would you say to your counterparts when it comes down to respecting the worship experience?
So I would say two different things. I would say for the most part, you have to be able to have the spiritual experience when you go to church. You can't play church, and there's certain things, there's certain rules, there's certain rituals, there's certain places that you can speak, you should speak, when to speak, when not to speak. If the pastor says stand, during prayer, you might not be accustomed to doing that, but you got to stand. If he's saying stand, if he stands when he reads. And I think that you always have to respect the order of the service.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, there's always, different pastors have different ways by which a worship service will go.
Mm-hmm.
And I will also say this one here can preach, but this one here, nah. But then at the same time, I will also say, look, it's the weekend before Election Day. And this is your last Sunday to be able to have this opportunity. You've been to these 5 churches in the past. I'm going to need you to stop by each of these churches on Sunday morning to just say, hey, hello, I'm just stopping by. It was a pleasure to be able to worship with you. I look forward to worshiping with you again in the future. On this particular day, I have to be at as many spaces as I possibly can, but I just stopped by to remind you that Tuesday is Election Day, or we're in the middle of early voting, and I do need you to go out and vote, and I do need you to tell your community and your neighbors and your family members that they need to go out and vote, and hopefully they'll be voting for me or whatever they can.
I got that. But what about those who hit 100 churches in their campaign, right? And promise that they will be back, but you don't never see them back again until it's time to run again.
Well, has the church invited them back?
No, because the church didn't invite you the first time.
Yeah, but come on, a relationship goes 2 ways.
No, come on, a relationship does go 2 ways. And you said as an assembly person, you would say, hey, I'm coming back to worship with you all, right? That's an
Yes.
invitation itself. And we say, yes, please. We clapping and all of that for you. That's an invitation right there, right? 4 years go by, 3 years go by, you now running again for another term. Now, you done missed 3 years, not coming back, not thinking about that church. But now it's time to run. Pull my list of
Yeah,
churches
but
that I
you done
went
had
to
a
before.
pastor's
But
anniversary,
but you
a
never
church
came through it.
anniversary, a usher board
But
anniversary,
didn't I just say you
the
never
choir
came?
anniversary,
But you never
the
came.
youth church
You didn't
experience.
come there either.
But at the end of the day, when you were doing, when look, I was a church clerk before. I read the emails, I read the letters, and there were invitations that churches send other churches.
9
to-
times out of 10, every elected collect that information without, because they have their people reach out and say, what is the anniversaries of the church? What is the birthdays of the pastor? What is this? They get that.
Yes.
You have the list.
But
you have the
again,
list.
it's the relationship, right? We're
That's
talking
what I'm
about
talking
relationship.
about. That's what I'm
And the
talking about.
a relationship always, both people have to work on the
Got
relationship.
it. Yes, because I done saw you at this meeting, that meeting, this meeting, that meeting. Yes, I saw you, but the church people haven't seen you.
Right. And so again, the relationship from the church, not with the pastor, always, like, there are many opportunities that I will get letters that come into the church.
Right.
Come into my office from different churches.
Do you go to
would-
most of the churches that send you a letter?
Yes.
That's good. But I'm talking about those who come in and don't until there is another election.
But is there an opportunity to reach out, right? Churches will send us saying, we're having a health day. We're having a health fair.
Right.
Could you come by? Could you come and table?
The scheduler said no, it's not on their schedule.
But
There's
I
not
think
this time on their schedule.
But again, it becomes a part of.
So what do the church supposed to do? Hunt you down? 'Cause
No,
remember, the church
but you
didn't hunt
can
you down.
send an
The
email
church did
and a
not hunt
letter.
you down to come. You hunt the church down to come the first time. So if you can do that, if you can initiate that, then you can do a visit back. So here goes the question, because it took you 100 days to see 100 churches, and now it took you over 3 years to come back. Come on now.
Yeah, well, there's
Come
a
on.
great song.
Come on, sis.
The hunt has been captured by the game.
Yeah.
And so once that person comes into your church, now there's also an opportunity for the relationship to be established by the church. And I think that, yes, it is, the onus is definitely on the elected official or the candidate to be able to work towards that relationship as well. Like, they should be reaching out and saying, these are some of the things that are happening in the community. These are, I love to be able to have an opportunity to talk about some of the things that I'm working on.
Right.
So again, it's a two-way
I
street.
see it, but we're always open. Even candidates who lose don't come back.
Well,
No, we're talking about relationship.
Right.
Relationship that's built first with God, then with people. If I have a godly relationship, that means if it took me 100 days to do 100 churches, I got 3 years to fill in the calendar every day, every weekend, to go to a church that I visit personally, that I said I will be back. And just to tell the people, thank you. We don't even get that. The electeds don't come back to say, thank you all. If it took 100, you took 100 churches, you wouldn't say, can I get your vote? You can also come back and say, thank you.
There you have it. So, to all of my elected official and campaign operative workers, it's important to be able to come by a church for a worship experience, to also do your political duties, but do not forget to come by and say thank you. Should churches endorse political candidates?
I think that churches should endorse political candidates. Why? Because when they build relationships, you know that person is actually going to try to live up and fulfill the needs of that community. Because if you don't tell that elected your needs, if there is not, and I think the failure of Black communities is that we